You're watching CN2 News, your #1 source for award-winning hometown coverage.
Bringing the communities of York and Lancaster counties closer together.
Tonight, a 20-year look back. Plus, some things may have changed here at CN2, including the technology we use. But tonight, I introduce you to some key players who were trailblazers 20 years ago, and today they're still blazing a trail 2 decades later.
Just imagine, gas prices $2 cheaper and cell phones 3 times larger. I'm Caroline Fountain, taking you on a blast to the past to 1992.
Good evening, and thanks for being here as we celebrate quite the milestone. I'm CN2's Laura Bree Monday.
Hello, I'm Lucas McFadden. 20 years ago, CN2 News, your local source for award-winning hometown news coverage, took to the airwaves.
Now, 20 years later, we take a look back in this anniversary special and have a little fun in the process. But first, here's a look at some of that October show that hit the Tri-County airwaves back in 1992.
Tonight's newscast you're watching is the first for Cable News 2, marking a new era in local television news coverage.
Now, if you have a complaint about a train, you'll have to take it to a higher authority.
Turning to news from around the state, President Bush is maintaining his lead in South Carolina.
My company offers fax machines for home and business.
Today is the last day for the 1992 Marion Hagen's Memorial Art Exhibit.
What have we got for tonight? Tonight it's going to be absolutely scrumptious.
And that's about all the time we have for tonight's news. Thanks for joining us. For Bethany Kaiser, Jerry Peterson, and the rest of the gang, have a very pleasant good evening.
Pretty exciting, and I'm sure a little stressful for that first show, but man, it looked great.
They made it happen, and we're continuing to do so today, and it's so interesting to see what's changed. Of course, the clothes, the hair, the equipment. Well, who better to give us some perspective than those first CN2 news anchors?
I spent some time Skyping this week with the very first CN2 news anchor, Bethany Kaiser. She now works in Columbus, Ohio for American Municipal Power, working in their internet communications department. Here's some of our chat.
It was an exciting time because cable news nationally at that time, CNN was really coming into its own. It was providing an alternative to the broadcasting stations, and we were among the first local providers to provide the headline news local edition format.
And when you look back at that time, fond memories?
Yes, definitely. I really enjoyed my time in Rock Hill. It's a great community. I'm very proud and I'm humbled that it's still going so strong and that you're now an Emmy-nominated newscast. It makes me feel like a proud parent. What I started 20 years ago, I had no idea would end up with such a fine quality product, and you should be commended for that.
We appreciate it and you for helping get us off the ground.
Well, I'm Lucas McFadden, and I'm sitting with David Burridge. You guys know him from 20 years ago. Talk a little bit about that first couple of newscasts and what the 20 years really has meant for you and for CN2.
Yeah, well, I think in the early days, Lucas, we were on a shoestring budget, skeleton crew. Not enough people to really do the job, but somehow we got it done. And the one thing that I like about the idea of doing TV news is it had never been done here, not every day, 30 minutes every day. So I think it was a groundbreaking situation and a good thing to be a part of. When we started doing it, we knew that there was a need, a niche to fill. And so I think it's great that CN2's become a part of the infrastructure.
Well, listen, we wouldn't be here without you and Bethany Kaiser and the rest of those first group of anchors, and we just appreciate so much what you guys did then and for setting us up with a great foundation of what we do right now. And David, thank you so much. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Take care, my man. Just some really nice people, and they too couldn't believe it had been 20 years. You know, when we all stopped to think about what we were doing 20 years ago, it's pretty funny. In fact, a little later, you'll get to see some pictures of your now familiar CN2 faces from 20 years ago.
What's also interesting is that some of these people who were part of our news stories, city leaders, politicians, are still in Rock Hill today.
Yeah, CN2's Allison Rauch reaching out to some of those community leaders who were part of that first newscast that aired 20 years ago.
There are a lot of things that have changed at CN2 over the 20 years. Our hairstyles are different. The technology we use is different. Even the on-air talent is different too. But there are some things that have stayed the same, including 2 key players that live, work, and call Rock Hill home 20 years later.
I'm extremely fortunate to have had the opportunities, the direction and leadership that predominantly Rock Hill has provided me.
It was October 1992, and during a weekly council meeting, then Superintendent of Recreation John Taylor, who was just starting his PRT career, was awarded the Young Professional of the Year award by the South Carolina Recs and Park Association.
I was nominated by my peers, and that made it real special because to be nominated not just from your community but from people in the state, it was a real special award.
Also in the early 90s, now Representative Gary Simrell was just starting his career in politics. He ran in 1991 but lost, and this commercial airing during CN2's first newscast would be the year Simrell would take office.
We must change our priorities to get tougher on violent criminals. We can't continue to allow criminals to terrorize our citizens.
It was an issue that dated to Rock Hill because there had been an assault, and when we started looking at in the law, the penalties for assault, you would serve more time or have a stiffer fine if you assaulted, say, a police dog or a police horse than if you assaulted a police officer.
Simrell started serving York County's District 46 seat in November of 1992 and would never look back.
I remember when I was in high school and people said, gosh, I can't wait to leave town to go off to college and to get out of Rock Hill, and I thought, I'm the weird kid because my goal was to go to Winthrop University, then college, and to stay here. And I thought, maybe I'm crazy, maybe they are. I looked back 20 years later and I thought, no, this is the best place to be.
Two men, 20 years later, still making an impact. In Rock Hill, Allison Rauch, CN2 News.
And we are putting that entire first broadcast up on CN2.com, so visit if you'd like to take a stroll down memory lane.
We've enjoyed it very much, and we'll have much more for you just ahead, plus comparing prices and those old pictures of some of your familiar faces today.
Welcome back. We continue our 20th anniversary special, taking you back to crisscross fashion and $1 a gallon of gas.
CN2's Caroline Fountain taking us back in time to 1992.
We're sending you back to the future.
Back to 1992.
We didn't have a care in the world.
Gas cost $2 cheaper than it does today, and fashion was, well, different.
With crisscross being around and wearing stuff backwards.
I remember my spiral perm. I had frosted hair.
Slap bracelets. Girls wearing their hair swooped to the side.
Also that year, the nicotine patch came out, Microsoft released Windows 3.1, and cell phones were 3 times as big as they are today.
For $19.95 a month, you got like 30 minutes a month, so every phone call was yes, 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 bye.
As for TVs, a 32-inch back in 1992 cost around $1,000. Now a flat panel TV, the same size, costs around $300.
Cosby Show was on.
Oh yeah, that was on.
Yep.
A Different World.
Different World was the main one.
I remember Saved by the Bell was big. So everybody wanted to be like a character from Saved by the Bell, and we used to like go to school and be like, oh, you're Lisa, you're Jesse.
On the political front, Bill Clinton won the election.
And the war, Desert Storm.
Desert Storm was around that time.
That.
National debt was at $4 trillion. Now it's 4 times that. From fashion to finance, for good or bad, a lot has changed since good old 1992. In York County, Caroline Fountain, CN2 News.
You know, those prices are not all that's changed from 20 years ago. We have changed, and for your viewing pleasure in tonight's AeroPoint Pictures of the Day, we're going to put our egos aside and let you take a look at the faces of your current CN2 News team 20 years ago. Wow, what were you doing back in 1992?
Oh man, I was in middle school at Louisville Middle School in 8th grade. Look at that picture. I put so much hairspray and gel in that hair. You would have thought that hair was going to win an Oscar.
It is not moving.
I spent so much time on that hair.
I love it, and I was at Columbia High School in Maplewood, New Jersey.
Wow.
Big hair,
oh, wow.
curls, as I've always told you, and 20 years later we end up in the same place. Isn't that interesting?
That's
how
crazy.
Things work out?
Oh, that's great.
You know, my high school had a TV studio, and that's where I got my start.
Really? Is that the longest your hair's ever been?
Yeah, and I thought it looked great that day. Woo, lioness, out to here.
Well, coming up after this break, a look back at the movies and some behind-the-scenes shots you don't normally get to see.
We're back right after this.
National cable television could care less about who won the high school football game. They don't have any interest in talking about good news stories or things in the community. It gives me a chance to talk about things in your backyard and my view of how we can take the state in a different way and get asked questions by people who live here and our stakeholders. So 20 years, I don't know how you're staying in business. I'm glad you are. And to the advertisers who keep you in business, you're doing the community a great service.
Well, news isn't all that has changed in 20 years. Do you remember what movies were playing?
Well, who better than Trey Maggio to take a look back at this special CN2 at the movies.
Hey movie watchers, it's Trey Maggio here, celebrating the 20th anniversary of CN2. The movie business has changed quite a bit since the early 90s, but there were still some huge releases. Let's take a trip down memory lane and check out the top 5 movies of 1992. Disney's Aladdin was the top money-making film of the year with over $500 million made to date, followed by The Bodyguard starring Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Basic Instinct, and Lethal Weapon 3 were all also in the top 5 grossing movies, all making more than $300 million. Speaking of Basic Instinct, starring Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone, this movie was actually featured in CN2's first newscast as a pay-per-view ad. Take a look.
Did you kill Mr. Boz, Mr. Trammell?
No.
The cop. I told him you wouldn't want to hide. The suspect.
I have nothing to hide.
Michael Douglas. She knows where I live and breathe. Sharon Stone.
Games are over.
Basic Instinct. Rated R.
The 65th Academy Awards celebrated actors, actresses, and movies from 1992. Let's see if you recognize some of the winners. Emma Thompson won Best Actress for her role in Howard's End, and it was Al Pacino who won Best Actor for his performance as Frank Slade in Sin of a Woman. The Best Director award was given to Clint Eastwood for his movie Unforgiven, which also won Best Picture. Many of today's most famous stars made their first big screen appearances in 1992, including Will Smith in Where the Day Takes You, Daniel Craig in The Power of One, Maggie Gyllenhaal in Waterland, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Beethoven, and Jamie Foxx in Toys, just to name a few. Wow, who knew 1992 would be such a great year for movies? Well, that's all the time I have. Until we meet again, I'm Trey, and I'll see you at the movies. Happy 20th, CN2.
All right, Trey, thanks. I guess they're classics now, which is funny to think about, but great movies. I think I still have some of those on VHS in my collection.
Keep them, they'll be worth something one day. Well, you know, we do have a lot of fun here at CN2, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you normally don't get to see. So here's a quick look, thanks to our Mia Macy.
All right, hit record and roll the open.
You're watching CN2 News.
I'll need more than 2 hours to get this show in order.
Here we go in 3, 2. You want to use that when you can, but I'm not.
You look like a shark coming out of the water.
What are you doing?
No makeup.
Would you rather have something more exciting up here?
I feel like an old grandma. Like,
what does this do, honey?
And I'm Lord Reed Monday and Lucas McFadden.
Yeah, I don't have a creative hairdo.
Oh, wait. But these bloopers are terrible.
Rob,
Mia, you shooting this?
Check out what's in here. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, a great group of people who work hard every single day. And again, as you saw in that video, we do manage to have a little fun in between all of the hard work.
But that hard work's not as much fun to show. But do know, to get you a fresh 30-minute local newscast every evening, our staff does work incredibly hard.
Now, just up after this break, some things you didn't know about us, and Rob Jones takes a look at the sports scene from 20 years ago.
Well, I think one thing, it has really brought television locally where people can see themselves and know what's going on in the community. I mean, that's what I do every night. I look to see, well, what's happened today? I think Larbury and Lucas do a wonderful job. They don't editorialize. They are very professional. And I think that they really work so well together.
Well, I think you feel informed about local activities, and I think that's what you're all about. And so, I think that's so much different from what we get out of Charlotte television. I think once again it was Comporium's ability to see what the future would hold.
Welcome back to this 20th anniversary special of CN2 News.
In keeping with our theme, here are 20 things you didn't know or we don't think you know about your CN2 News anchors.
All right, I'm going to start. Ready?
All right.
The Price is Right is my favorite TV show. I was prom king in high school. I have several honorary degrees from the USC Culinary School and from Ringling Brothers Clown College. I spent 2 weeks studying in Spain. I'm very organized to the point where I'm almost OCD. I spent 5 nights at Carowinds where I participated in a radio station contest similar to Survivor. survivor. I was the first Boy Scout in my troop to get my archery merit badge. I'm an adrenaline junkie. Roller coasters, mud runs, skydiving, zip lines, anything that gets my heart rate up. I drink the recommended 8 glasses of water a day. And here's the big one. I am not a fan of the classic movie Forrest Gump.
Who are you?
Oh,
Bizarre. Those are great. All right, 10. Here we go. I had a fake last name for most of my TV career. I went by Laura Bree Austin. If you ever see me out, ask me about the phone book story. Naturally, as you saw, I have very, very curly hair, and I am forever indebted to my flat iron. I got engaged in Alaska in Denali National Park. I interned with the Geraldo Rivera Show. My son's name is Ethan Tate, and his middle name came from a nickname when I was pregnant. We called him our little tater tot, and I fell in love with the name Tate. I can't stand the texture of beans. First job out of college was at a radio station in New York City on the 40th floor of the Viacom building in Times Square until I got my first TV job in a cotton field in Lubbock, Texas.
Wow.
And I never looked back. Best decision I ever made. My husband is Channel 9 morning meteorologist Keith Monday, who I met in Lubbock. I went to college in Bloomington, Indiana, and was terrified of tornadoes, and we joke that's why I ended up with the weatherman. And the final thing you may not know about me, I danced and swam in high school.
And I want to know how you got all of that hair and that small little swim cap.
Water shrinks it down. It's when it dries, it gets really big. And even though that was 20, we can't leave out Rob Jones. Rob, what are some things we may not know about you?
Did you guys know I love listening to jazz music?
We do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you walk past the Edit Bay, I'll be listening to it
Very
sometimes.
mellow,
Okay, I
Rob
wonder where
Jones.
Keeping me
that's coming
calm.
from.
But it's also the things that get me really hyped, and that was about playing baseball every summer as a kid and in high school. I love everything about the Windy City, my hometown of Chicago. I got my first job in the industry my senior year in college. I worked at the Chicago Tribune as an editing assistant, and over the years I've lived in 6 states and 8 cities. That's a lot. Hey, I interviewed every member of the 96 Dream Team. You can look them up. And people don't know that I have a passion for nutrition, very conscientious about what I eat, but I can't stay away from black walnut ice cream. Oh, it's delicious. Hey, you have a paint job? Call me. I have pictures to prove it. I have another skill, I can do that. Hey, I like to shoot pool, playing golf, that's still a work in progress, and hanging out with my buddies back home. And I'm married to Tanisha, a lovely, no-nonsense woman and a real trooper. So thank you, babe, for hanging in there with me. And I have 2 awesome sons, Anthony and Anderson.
They are a great family. Interesting. Rob Jones, thanks for all those insights.
Yeah, I've been around for a while, guys. Also, we're also talking about sports over the last 20 years here in the Tri-County, and things have changed with the times, and the kids are bigger and faster, but the passion and some names remain the same. Even the way sports was delivered is totally different today. Here's a look back at 2 decades of CN2 sports.
Tomorrow night's high school football lineup features a number of games that'll go a long way toward deciding where some teams will be playing in the playoffs. The WCBL TV2 game of the week is Gaffney at Northwestern.
Fast forward to now. Fancy editing equipment, flashy graphics with plenty of visuals. Not only was 1992 special for CN2, it marked the beginning of some memorable moments, like the birth of Justin Worley, the former Northwestern quarterback, would later become the National Gatorade Player of the Year. Or how about Rock Hill's defensive line coach, Gerald Dixon? The ex-Bearcat was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in the 3rd round. Fort Mill's marching band won the state championship. And Great Falls' legendary basketball coach, John Smith, won the 2nd of his 8 state titles. 43 years later and more than 800 victories, Big John is still in charge. And former Winthrop baseball coach Joe Hudak took over the program in 1992 and had 19 successful years. Speaking of longevity on campus, Winthrop men's soccer coach Rich Posapenko was in his 5th year in 1992. Coach remembers when there was no CN2 coverage.
Basically, it was print media then. There wasn't even the web pages at that point. But CN2's brought a lot of exposure for us here at Winthrop, and we really appreciate that.
So, while many things have changed, a lot has stayed the same in 20 years, and you can count on CN2 sports coverage for 20 more years. All right, guys, also in 1992, the Chicago Bulls won their 2nd of 6 NBA titles, And The Mighty Ducks was a very, very popular movie back in 1992.
Oh, I remember it well.
Yeah,
All right,
three
Rob Jones.
movies, I think, of those.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Thank you for all of that history.
All right, a few exciting reminders for you. CN2 News will be at District 3 Stadium in Rock Hill this Friday night for Caporium CN2 night. Great game to be played. Northwestern is playing Nation Ford.
Also, and this is a biggie, it is time for our final and huge grand prize giveaway. CN2 and our parent company, Caporium, are, drum roll please. Ooh, we have one.
Oh, okay.
Giving away 20 months of free digital video. That's almost 2 years, folks. That's 20 months on Caporium's digital variety pack only. And the great news here, by being a customer, you're already entered. We will announce the winner on Friday.
Very exciting.
20 months free.
We hope you will join us for then and then for every day in the future. And again, thank you for 20 great years.
Have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you back here on Friday.